So this is a picture of me trying to draw a triglyceride. So yes, you'll remember that those little rhomboids, those square fellas, are supposed to be glucose, and it is a glucose molecules, a few glucose molecules that hold together the backbone of these strings of fat. So usually the three strings, the triglycerides are certain lengths. We have small triglycerides, medium triglycerides, long triglycerides, but in general, this is what fat looks like in our body, and it is a very good thing. Triglycerides deliver energy to cells. They help repair your cells. Your body's ability to absorb and use these energy units called fat really do matter. And when you increase your fat intake on a ketogenic diet, these little turkeys for a time are going to increase in your blood supply. And we're going to show you what that looks like here in just a second. So this is the overview of what I'm about to go through, which is what does cholesterol cycling look like when the insulin is high? Okay, insulin again is the message saying store glucose, store glucose. We have too much glucose around. Everybody store glucose. The glucose has to be taken care of. And insulin is the ultimate dictator when it comes to our human body. So in this picture, I want you to notice that liver. See those three little lines inside the liver all over the place? That's a whole bunch of triglycerides that are stored in your liver. And then those white circles with the little glucoses in them, that's a representation of glycogen or stored sugar. Your blood sugar got high, your body said, hey, let's put that into storage for later. And those glycogen storage units become a string that you wind up and push into your liver. Your liver also stores fat, and the name of that fat is a triglyceride inside that liver. If you've been told you have a fatty liver, this is what your liver looks like. It doesn't just have excess fat in it, it has excess fat and excess glucose in it. So the first thing that happens when your body is trying to deliver fat to the system is it packages the triglycerides and fats into what's called a chylomicron. A chylomicron is, you can see on the inside that chylomicron, it's got that ApoB48 string on the outside, but it is filled with those little red dots, which are a whole bunch of triglycerides. As that chylomicron travels around, it dishes out triglycerides to anybody who's hungry, who needs fat molecules. And in the setting of high insulin, it's really hard to get that delivery process done because insulin wants you to use glucose before you use that fat. As the chylomicron finally gets some of those triglycerides dumped off, we change that particle. It actually stops back at the liver. It rips off the ApoB48. It puts on an ApoB100. And now we call it a VLDL, so a very large, dense lipoprotein. And then we give out some more triglycerides. You can see those are exiting on all these little particles. And then it changes size a little bit. And we call it an intermediately dense lipoprotein, and then it gives off even more triglycerides, and now it's called a low density lipoprotein. And really what's happened is the amount of triglycerides in the chylomicron was the most, and then you got rid of some and we called it a VLDL, and then we got rid of more and we called it an IDL, and we got rid of more and we called it an LDL. And now what's supposed to happen is that LDL is supposed to go back to the liver and recycle, pick up some more triglycerides, and then we strip off the APO100, we put back the APO48, and we send it back out for another trip around the bend to deliver energy to your body. But see how that Mr. Insulin has a big hand stopping, saying, hey, wait. When it cannot get back into the liver, and the person blocking it from the liver, and the person, I really mean the hormone, is insulin. Insulin saying, you are not coming back in. I have to use up this glucose before I'll let you do this again. And when that LDL circulates in your blood and it's trying to find a place to park, it's looking for a place to park, what happens to it is it gets oxidized. That oxidation of the LDL is, again, it's a protective process. Your body's trying to help you, but in the world of markers to say if that LDL is oxidized, it's a warning, much like those cytokines. We have danger. They've got high insulin. Get the insulin down. Get the insulin down. And how do you do that? You decrease your carbohydrates. All right, so just for a point of clarification, these are the two comparisons. We have now the cholesterol cycling with normal insulin. All right, so these are my keto people, and especially those that I think the people who signed up for the class, this first class, were very advanced people. I was so thankful that some newbies signed up so I could get their feedback on what it's like to be in the first few phases. But if you've been doing the ketogenic diet, and I don't just mean the food, you have chemistry inside your body that has been circulating ketones for the better part of 2, 3, 4 months, you hopefully have a much more normal insulin level. But let's just say you never had an abnormal liver. So let's just pretend you're young, healthy, and you cycle into ketosis 3 to 4 times a week because you're healthy. All right, let's take a look at them. So first of all, I just want you to point out how beautiful their liver is. There's no bumps and lumps on it. They don't have a fatty liver. It's gorgeous. It's not stuffed full of glycogen bubbles. I mean, it's probably got a few scattered in there. It's not stuffed full of triglycerides, although it's probably got a few in there. And it's doing its job. So when you eat that high fat food, it takes that fat, those triglycerides, and just like it did in the high insulin state, it puts it in this package called an ApoB48 chylomicron. And inside there is a bunch of triglycerides. And in this case, insulin's at a pretty normal level, so those triglycerides easily flow out to the parts of the body that need them. And who needs a triglyceride? Anybody who's needing energy and anybody who needs to repair the body. Triglycerides are a deliverer of energy and deliverer of fatty lipoproteins that can also really improve the outcome of a broken cell or a broken process or a broken tendon, and your body can repair that. So again, once several triglycerides get dumped out, it'll go back, rip off the ApoB48, put on the ApoB100, and now we call it a VLDL. It dishes out some more triglycerides throughout the body. Triglycerides, we then call the density a little intermediate, so that's an IDL. And finally, we get down to LDL, and if you hadn't put this together, LDL is that bad cholesterol. We checked the bad cholesterol. My bad cholesterol is high. But what you'll notice here is there's nothing stopping this cholesterol from recycling back into the liver. And why is that? That's because the insulin is normal. And in the setting of those fatty streaks and those risks for heart attacks, we know that the LDL that recycles quickly hops back into the liver, gets filled with triglycerides, and starts to deliver energy to the places that it needs to. And of course, this cycle is a demand-based process. So as your body says, we're pretty healthy, we don't need a lot of nutrients right now, then the cycling will settle down. Much like cytokines don't drop tomorrow, but they do drop over time. We see that if you are just starting on the ketogenic diet and you added a whole bunch of fat, and 6 weeks later you go in to check your cholesterol, and you say, oh my goodness, my LDL cholesterol is over 200, I'm gonna die. I'm like, don't look. Way too quick to look. This is still in the process of trying to say we want the flow in and out of your liver to be at homeostasis, to be static, it reached the demands. And if I see one major process that is hungry when people have a high insulin state and they're trying to lower their insulin, first of all, I contend I don't think you can lower insulin in 6 weeks. It's going to take you 6 months, 9 months to lower your insulin. And that's if you stay the course. That's if you consistently stay ketogenic, not putting in carbohydrates, lowering the demand for insulin. And when insulin gets low, the recycling process for your cholesterol can now do what it's supposed to do. Much like the cytokines don't repair overnight, that fatty streak gets less and less volatile when the LDL cholesterol isn't trying to sneak into the wall of your artery. Instead, because your insulin has lowered, the LDL now goes back into your liver and it recycles like it's supposed to. LDL isn't the bad guy. It's just the end of the unit. It's the end of the line where everybody else has dumped off its triglycerides and it's trying to get back into the liver. As soon as you remove the high insulin state, it can get back in the liver, and that's the process we want to see happening in healthy people. When I study people's cholesterol on a ketogenic diet, and if they insist on checking their cholesterol, I warn them, it's not going to be normal for a year. I'm not going to make any sense out of this for a year. We can do different tests, and sure, it does help me see which part of the process are you at, but it is not the best clue for your heart attack state by looking at how many LDL are floating around in your blood vessels. So again, a comparison side by side. The one has the liver filled with cholesterol, filled with triglycerides, filled with sugar. It's a high insulin state, so the process of recycling energy throughout the body is not in a good flow state. However, when the insulin is normal, that flow state continues. And although the LDL cholesterol won't be lowering back down to a homeostasis that we can trust for the first week, it will eventually get there, I would contend, 6 to 9 months into a ketogenic diet.
Please subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos. Stay tuned.